welcome to FM Unscripted, a podcast produced by the International Facility Management Association's Facility Management Journal. I am Andrea Sanchez, Editor-in-Chief for FMJ, and your host for the next couple of minutes. Today we explore the topic of risk management. I have the great pleasure of interviewing a thought leader in this area, an individual who has more than 25 years of in-the-trenches experience in the critical facility space, with a focus on how to better protect sensitive facilities from threats. Based in Fort Collins, Colorado, Jeremy Swanner is currently the Executive Vice President of RLE Technologies, a leading provider of leak detection systems and web-based monitoring solutions for mission-critical facilities. Thanks to his diverse background within the data center and critical facility industries, Jeremy has been at the forefront in developing threat detection technology and other controls to help ensure uptime. Welcome.
And so Jeremy, what was your inspiration behind your FMJ article, Best Practices for Risk Mitigation in Mission Critical Facilities?
Well, good morning, Andrea. And, while RLE is a rapidly growing company, we are still a small organization with a desire to have a positive impact on business and people. And this is reflected in our product offering. Our products are really designed to protect assets and information as well as people and reputations. But what we find is that many facility managers don't fully appreciate the impact of downtime on people and the business, or how frequent critical facilities experience downtime due to controllable factors such as fluid leaks, temperature issues, power outages, humidity, and etc.
So in the article you mentioned that the most important way to mitigate risk in a mission-critical facility is to make the investment now. There's a lot of talk about tangible costs, replacing equipment, etc. But most often, people don't realize those intangible costs, which I thought was very interesting, and how critical they are to the company's survival. Can you go more into that?
Sure. Credibility and trust and your reputation in the market is paramount. And every time you have downtime or your facility is not functioning, your IT space is down and not accessible, it really is an opening for your competitors to come in and use that against you in many different ways. Your reliability, your brand recognition, and the damage to your brand recognition can take months and even years to repair.
In your experience, can you give an example of such intangible costs that people may not have realized were coming?
Sure. We've dealt with a number of different organizations who, for instance, museums, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, for instance, had a leak, and with irreplaceable articles, their small leak could have been incredibly damaging to their artifacts. And for little cost, they were able to put in a leak solution that would prevent any type of large catastrophe in the future. And the same with co-hosting facilities or co-location facilities in the IT industry. Downtime for them is it's incredibly damaging to the reputation, and their competitors will pounce on that and use that against them in any type of bid or RFQ for new clients. As well as any type of hosting company that hosts web services or internet service providers. They have to be up, at the highest rate possible, and with little to minimal investment, they can have environmental monitoring, they can have leak detection, which can curtail any large, expensive damage or catastrophic outages.
Very true and very scary. So you mentioned downtime, and that is a key word. And just to put that in perspective, downtime could be a few hours, a few minutes. It could be a couple days or even more. I know you've done some research on that and have some stats. What is a surprising stat about downtime?
So downtime really can range in cost and what I would call collateral damage. Downtime can be anything from $7,000 and up per minute to $300,000 per hour. It just depends on the business, the business model that is down. For example, Amazon being down for 4 or 5 minutes will end up costing them millions, whereas another organization, it might not cost them millions, but it does stop and disrupt their normal business cycle or business model. And you know, the intangible costs that are very hard to put a dollar amount on are the marketing efforts to recoup on that downtime for both your internal customers, your employees, and have confidence rebuilt with them, as well as your external customers and your lifeline to growth and continued business success. It takes a lot to regain that confidence and overcome the competitors' rhetoric around those downtime periods.
Absolutely. It can be certainly very damaging and sometimes things that we take for granted. So you mentioned technology. So can you elaborate on some of that monitoring technology that is currently available for facility managers?
Sure. There's really a plethora of different monitoring devices out there for both environment as well as security type applications. And there's leak detection for both corrosive fluids, you know, acids and solvents, as well as conductive fluid, typically meaning water. Chiller plants, a lot of times critical facilities have pipes running right along inside walls next to their most critical room. That is the heartbeat of the organization. And so to elaborate, there's leak detection, and there's temp humidity monitoring systems. There's both wire-free as well as wired type of temp and temperature environmental monitoring capabilities out there. There's a lot of pros and cons with both. However, wire-free has been taking a much more solid position in the critical facility space because of its flexibility, low cost of implementation, deployment, and upkeep, especially with some of the new technology. So there really is a plethora of different type of, you want to call them sensors. So again, whether it's temp, humidity, door opening, shutting, motion detection, static pressure, differential pressure, airflow, IP cameras, leak detection, again, with conductive or corrosive type of fluids. And you know, the wire-free technology, it really is changing rapidly, and a lot of the hurdles that used to exist are now easily overcome. We actually did a blog on it, and you should feel free to take a look at our blog post about the sponsorship at the World Workplace is where we presented that.
Mm-hmm. Great. So the wire-free technology seems like the way to go as far as where the future is heading. So if a facility manager is picking among many choices of the type of technology to use, what is the best way, or what advice would you give them on how to go about to see what's the best fit for them?
So facility managers, as we've said before, have a plethora of different choices out there. They really need to assess their own environment and rely on key vendors to help them that will be as unbiased as possible and choose the right fit for their both environmental monitoring system, their mechanical systems, their leak detection, security, and so forth, and how are they going to incorporate that into, you know, what you could call, quote unquote, either a single pane of glass, where they have one IP address or one website they can go to and view all alarms that are that have been activated, or they can look at multiple different types of smaller appliances so that each system is almost a standalone. I would highly suggest they either call someone like an RLE Technologist and help guide them through some of those decisions, or get a wide range of opinions from vendors that they trust.
So, you know, obviously a big part of this is education and people. So through your years of experience, what advice would you give on incorporating a robust training program?
Well, I do think training is a big portion of what should be focused on. You know, they need to have a plan. 20% of companies survived during the emergency preparedness and business continuity study did not have a plan in place for when things go wrong, and it's really not if, it's when. You know, in the resource section of the rletech.com, we do have a leak detection checklist that can help identify the threats that should be worked on and into your plan. And then most importantly, you need to practice it. Just like when we were in school as children, we did fire drills and tornado drills, and that helped during a real disaster, that you actually knew what to do and you felt comfortable doing it. And then finally, you really have to keep the plan updated. Things change. Business environments are ever changing and evolving, and the structure or the layout of the critical facility might not be the same as when the plan was implemented. Things change quickly, and you just need to make sure that you have that incorporated into your business continuity plan.
Absolutely, yeah, and that is key, keeping it updated. Just because you've done one doesn't mean that's it. You're ready to move on. So thank you for that. So at World Workplace, the IFAS conference, you presented a 3-step proven process for getting the environmental monitoring budget you need. I know this is something in a lot of minds of facility managers. So can you elaborate on how to go about that?
Sure. So what we presented was based on Sinek's Gold Circle. So why, how, what? And people make decisions based on emotions. They tend to have a knee-jerk reaction to what we would call the headline catastrophe, so hurricanes, shootings, earthquakes, and in reality those are the smallest piece of what will cause a business to experience any type of downtime or failure. You must first understand the why that drives the decision makers emotionally to get what you need. Far too many business cases start with what needs to be done or purchased and skips the why part. And why is really why the company exists. What do you do that provides a service or a product, and to who? So once you define why, then you can start looking at the what and the how. How would monitoring help the decision maker increase the likelihood of success of the why? Support the how with facts such as case studies, metrics, ROIs. What really happens if you do have a catastrophe? What is the impact? How many people are out of work? What's your cost of employees not being productive? And finally, present the what. What products, processes, or procedures need to be implemented to protect or achieve the why. You need to build out a candid and honest proposal to execute the how. Do your homework and present a comprehensive proposal to protect the what. The full presentation is available on our blog as well in more detail. The most important aspect, I think, of developing this type of process or budget request, if you will, is identifying what is important to your business and how it functions and who is it important to because of the services or products you provide. And then really, what is the cost of downtime or a failure? And I don't want to say always because that's somewhat misleading, I think, but I would say a high 90% of the time you'll find that the implementation of devices or appliances like leak detection or environmental monitoring is minuscule in cost compared to what the catastrophe could be.
Yeah. So ROE, besides having a presence at IFMA's conference and being a corporate sustaining partner and providing much needed counsel to the facility management community on all these technologies, you also are involved in our knowledge and have a stake in that. So you recently sponsored one of our popular business continuity reports, High Stakes Business, People, Property, and Services. So what was your drive for sponsoring this, and were there any particular insights from that research that jumped out at you?
Sure, there were several actually. RLE has been in business for about 30 years, and while much of our historic business was in the data center industry, we were seeing quite a bit of organic interest from other types of facilities, such as government, manufacturing, retail, public sector, and such. So as such, we wanted to acquire some information about the broader facility space to see how we truly fit in. And that's one reason why we put so much effort into IFMA's trade shows and sponsorships of those type of events that we participated in. Also similar to why I drafted the original article, ROE at its core seeks to provide positive influence wherever we conduct business. So sponsoring this report provided the industry with some significant data that, if followed, can protect facilities, data, people, reputation, and curtail competition's creep into their marketplace. And finally, we certainly don't regret the amount of brand recognition that the report has provided ROE. We didn't want to sponsor just any report with IFMA. That's why we worked with your team to come up with this topic to begin with. We feel passionately that every facility manager should fully prepare for or when issues occur. And they will occur. That's what our findings showed, and our studies showed, that it's not when, it's if it's going to happen. And water, power, and cooling or heat are the top 3 reasons why facilities fail. And we wanted our name attached to that concept, since it is what we do, and that's our core business, and our core practice is supporting facilities with environmental monitoring and leak detection devices.
And we certainly appreciate your thought leadership and your partnership in getting that critical piece of information out to the facility management community. What's next for ROE as far as technology? Being a thought leader, where do you envision the technology being or going toward in, say, 20 years?
Well, 20 years in the IT industry is quite a stretch. So I think I'd be making a lot more money if I could get it out to 20. I'll stick to maybe 3 to 5 years. I truly, there's an acronym out there, DSIM, Data Center Infrastructure Management Software and Applications, and there's been a plethora of reports done on that. There's also a ton of different building management systems, facility management systems. And our thought here at ROE is that segment is going to grow by exponential amounts in the next 3 to 10 years, actually. And what that will do is actually promote and dictate the fact that facility managers, critical facility managers, IT managers will have to implement some type of environmental monitoring, leak detection systems, because those overall building management systems, they really are the single pane of glass that allows you to tie into all of these other different applications or solutions and pull them into one alarm notification type system. I believe wire-free is going to take off exponentially in the next few years as well. We've already seen a huge traction in the market and attraction to the wire-free solution because of its ease of deployment, low cost of implementation, and procurement compared to a wired solution. And the wire-free devices out there and sensors they cover the gamut. I mean, everything from fuel level to fluid sensing and fuel sensing to door opening, air pressure, static pressure, CFM, and so forth. And the one piece of wisdom that I would really ask a facility manager to reflect on would be how many downtimes or failures have they seen in their career or their peers have seen, and how many of those organizations have survived them with some level of comfort. And the ones that have survived with comfort, I would say, had a plan in place, had monitoring devices in place, and curtailed that downtime or that failure in a very minimal amount of time. I have a feeling the peers that weren't able to do that either lost jobs or companies went out of business.
Yeah, and that's certainly great advice. And thank you, Jeremy, and we greatly appreciate everything that you and your team and ROE Technologies has done to help us magnify the facility management profession, and we look forward to our continued partnership.
Special thanks to Jeremy and his team of experts at RLE Technologies. RLE Technologies, among IFMA's prestigious silver-level corporate sustaining partners, is a leading global provider of critical facility environment oversight and notification. To learn more about the topics discussed today, go to ifma.org and refer to the January-February 2015 issue of Facility Management Journal, as well as check out IFMA's Business Continuity Report, High Stakes Business, People, Property, and Services, and RLE Technologies blog at www.rletech.com. Thank you for tuning in.